to the 2019 Central States Region Alliance for Community Media Conference and Trade Show. And that is a mouthful. And we are a big group of people with bold personalities and enthusiasm for community media. So thank you so much for attending. And obviously we have to thank WKTV for allowing this to happen here in their amazing facility. So let's give them a huge round of applause. We are streaming this opening session live on Facebook as well, and I just want to give major shout outs to all of their amazing staff. I've been working very closely with Jean and Nate and Davin and Victoria and Kelly, and I mean it just keeps going. Joanne, they are so fabulous and so helpful, so once again, thank you so much, WKTV. Few housekeeping things that I want to mention. Tonight is our Centennial opening ceremony of networking at the Centennial Founders Brewery Room. If you go to that event, please mention that you're with the Alliance for Community Media. You will have to be let into an elevator and then up to the second floor. We have the whole room and it's going to be a lot of fun. Municipal Captioning is our sponsor for that as well. Before we even started this stream, I do have to thank our sponsor, Laytronics. They sponsored our opening session and our brunch, so thank you, Laytronics, for doing that as well. A few other housekeeping things. There is a flyer in your packet. Please attend the WKTV Voices Airstream trailer. There's a few sessions going on throughout the next few days, and we want to get your PEG stories kind of recorded and we can share. So it will be kind of first come, first serve. If there is a few people in that, because we can only fit 4, we will try to kind of shuffle you through and get you on there before you leave on Friday. And let's see, last but not least, I want to invite Tom Norton, the Executive Director, up here with our opening speaker, Tyler Mayne.
All right.
Great. Thanks so much, Alicia. Welcome, everyone. Since we're doing this as a live stream, we're just going to go this straight as a television production, which you're all used to. So I will say to all the folks watching on the live stream, greetings, everyone, and welcome to our live streaming coverage of the Alliance for Community Media Fall Conference for the Central States Region. I'm Tom Norton, the General Manager of WKTV Community Media, your host for the conference and today's plenary session. I and all of us here at WKTV are very pleased to present the true rags to riches story about the difference and success that community media can play in people's lives. Tyler Mayne, a proud Grand Rapids native, started his career volunteering at WKTV at the age of 12. Tyler loved the experience and decided to pursue a career in broadcast. While working for a company that did have events and production, he worked a couple of live shows and fell in love with the energy. In 2000, Tyler left his junior technician job in Michigan and moved to Orlando, Florida, which is a hub for live events. His first Orlando gig was an entry-level warehouse position where he swept the floors. He worked his way up to a full-time technician gig before going freelance. While working as a freelance tech, Tyler started investing in equipment in order to diversify and increase his services beyond skilled labor. This led to the start of his company, Evolve, in 2008. Tyler worked his last gig as a technician in 2010 and has been running Evolve full-time ever since. Evolve is a technology-based sales, rental, and leasing company for the live events industry. Tyler knows how much opportunity the live events industry offers, so his mission is to promote the industry, make life on shows less stressful, and help technicians and business owners reach maximum success. Tyler Mayne, welcome.
Great job, Tom. Great intro. Enjoyed that.
Great.
And I'm still sweeping the floors, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
I'm still sweeping the floors.
Yeah, and like me, we'll occasionally washing the bottles.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Yes, I've cleaned the bathrooms. I don't know if you've done that yet, but
we have the cleanest bathrooms.
Yeah,
that's really clean.
Great. Well, I think what's really interesting about your story, because it is a rags to riches story, and how it's worked, because in such a short span of time, Evolve Media Group has grown so quickly and has become so successful. You now have offices in what cities?
So we're in Orlando, that's our headquarters. Mm-hmm. We're in Las Vegas, and we have a third office in Dallas that opened 2 years ago.
Wow, and how many employees do you have now?
We're right at about 50.
50 employees.
Yes, hence the gray hair in my beard.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, I guess what's the most interesting thing about a lot of this is in the short time that you've been with Evolve, that you created this company and its success, what have you witnessed primarily on a couple of fronts? But the first one we're going to talk about is the technological front, because I'm sure there's a lot of people here are interested in equipment and gear, and we have a lot of vendors here. What have you witnessed about the technological front, first and foremost?
It's size. I mean, when I was walking back in the studio earlier, I remember that your analog mixing console that's still back there. I remember when that thing came in, and when you look at the newer products and how small everything's gotten on the video side, it's really quite amazing. I remember you told me recently what the budget was here in the 90s, and it was literally, everything was literally on a shoestring budget. And back then, a new deck might cost $20,000, $30,000. Cameras cost $20,000. Nowadays, on $20,000 or $30,000, you can put together a studio. Everything's very limitless. So what I've really seen with video is everything has gotten amazingly small. You can now fit a 4K recorder in the palm of your hand. Before that's something that might cost you $100,000. So it's really opened up media to everybody just by the price point coming down so low. I mean, there's people that shoot documentaries on their iPhones now, and it looks perfectly acceptable. You still need tools like a place like WKTV, because at some point you have to learn the professional way to do it. I mean, you can do it homemade, you can do things at home, do your YouTube live things, but to come to a proper studio and learn production techniques is something that you can't learn by yourself.
If, for the sake of community media, because that's our audience and those watching on the live stream right now, what was the difference that a community media facility made in your life, in your professional career?
Everything. I mean, I left this station and went to Michigan. Went to Florida. I didn't go to college. I kind of skipped past the 4 years of college. And what was really striking to me is how much of what is done here translates into other industries. So the industry I'm in is live events, and then the sub-industry of that is corporate theater. So corporate theater are typically very large corporate events where you could have thousands of people that fly into Orlando or Las Vegas and put on these big events. And when I first started getting into that line of work, let me go backwards. When I was here, I really loved the live aspect. I don't really like it right now, but I really liked the live aspect. I liked doing shoots in the studio that were live, taking the production truck out and doing live events, because when you're taping something, if something goes wrong, you can stop.
Right.
When you're live, you can't stop. So there's a certain amount of excitement that comes with that. And when I first got into live events, it was that same feeling. Your audience is in the room with you. You can see your physical audience. On television, you can't see your audience.
Right.
So there's almost a whole other level of intimacy that comes with that. And stress, because if things go wrong, you have to keep moving forward. And for those people that have volunteered at a station like WKTV for a while, what I would tell them is really appreciate a place like this, because this is for any standard, this is a top station. And back when I was here, it was different. It was shoestring budget. It was donated gear. I always liken it to, if you've seen Christmas Vacation, when Clark Griswold, he takes the two plugs and he puts them together, and you're like, I hope this is going to work. And then boom, you're live, everything happens. That excitement and that feeling keeps going with me today, and I learned that when I was a young kid.
Kind of dancing on a knife edge.
It is. I mean, it's just exciting, and it gives you an adrenaline rush that you can't replace. So when I moved into the corporate side and kind of fell in love with it, what was striking to me is how much I learned here that I could take into that world with just some slight adjustments, and how making basically what was back then a box of broken toys work successfully all the time gave me troubleshooting skills that I use to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, we were MacGyvering things when MacGyver was on the air, right? I mean, this was going back a long ways. So,
exactly, and I think that in the stories that I remember the famous story here was when Mark Rawson, the engineer that used to be here many years ago, was a 3/4 inch tape was slipping, and during a broadcast, and they needed belt dressing, and he knew that belt dressing was made out of asphalt or tar. So he went out to the parking lot and he scraped up a small piece of asphalt and he melted it with a Bic lighter and he applied that on the thing, and that got the machine working again just in time
what you
for
had
the
to
live
do.
show. And it was
It's just a
I
wing and a
mean,
prayer every
wing
time.
and a prayer, spit tape and rubber bands, and it puts you on the knife edge, and it's very exciting.
And earlier before we started, I walked in the control room, and they're just turning everything on 5 minutes before we go up. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is amazing.
It
This
all
used
works.
to take hours. That's
Yeah,
fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So, brave new world.
The whole question of it's becoming an overused word, but the phrase democratization of media. How has that, in your back pocket nature of technology, changed the way people view technology? I'm sure you have employees now who are in their early 20s.
Yes.
What have you noticed about their perspective of technology as opposed to your what you were raised on?
So, back when I first started volunteering here, the only way that you could get your message out was coming to a public access station, right? That was the only way, and that really made it exciting. Like, that's a way to get your message out. There's so many ways to get messaging out nowadays, and there's so much competition that has forced everybody to think a little bit different. You guys are thinking a little bit different. You've got film and television courses, and I feel like this station has really evolved from just being a TV station to one where you learn broadcasting, you learn film, and you're learning trades that you can take out in the real world. I did a presentation a few months ago, and I was talking about this because in my industry, our industry is booming because we're competing with this. We're competing with phones. So you can't bring an audience into a ballroom anymore and put a slideshow presentation on for them. You have to wow them. You have to give them an immersive experience. If you've been to a concert nowadays, it's like a Cirque du Soleil show. I mean, these things are amazing spectacles with full automation. And the reason why artists do that is because you can't go and perform on a stage anymore, throw up the lights and sing your hits. You have to give the audience something that gets their phone out, and then, hey, I'm at the Beyonce concert, and I'm checking in on Facebook. And the newer artists know how to promote social media. Some would say, hey, put your phones away, and the smart ones say, let's involve you. U2 did their tour last year, and they used augmented reality. So there were points in the show where you could get your phone out, shoot the giant LED screen, and it would interact with your phone. That's the way the world's moving. Media is not going to change, but the old way of doing things have to be adapted, and that's by immersing the audience and letting them participate. The two-dimensional participation is gone, or one-dimensional, because at the end of the day, someone can just pull out their phone in the middle of your presentation and start, sending emails. So people are easily distracted, and what our industry is doing is it's having a renaissance because we have to get that attention back. Television is arguably better than it's ever been. Because of that fact, because the competition is so stiff, and the status quo doesn't work anymore.
What would you say to an executive director, general manager, or production coordinator at any one of the community media facilities with regard to the limitations that they face on a daily basis with what they should be able to do given a little bit more oomph, a little bit more push, a little bit more shove?
I think if I was running a facility like this, the way I would look at it is I'm in this community. I need to document what's happening in the community and tell those stories, but I also have to let people know why we're here and what this place is all about. I mean, I remember the way that I found out about, I think it was WCTC at the time, right? Was 1990, there was this SNL sketch called Wayne's World. And Wayne's World had Wayne and Garth, and they were broadcasting in the basement, right? And I remember the only thing I knew about community television back then is it was the channel I had to skip over to get to MTV. So you were 23, and 25 was MTV.
Yeah.
But then after Wayne's World came out, I started paying it. It was like it didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And then Wayne's World came out, and I started paying attention to it, and then I started obsessing over it, and I started really watching it. And the reason why I did is because I felt like there was this beacon in the neighborhood that I could go, I want to see what's going on back behind the scenes. I want to see that. I was 12 years old at the time, so I didn't really know what to do. I had a family member that signed me up for a class at Kendall College, like 91, I think. And what we did is we spent a week making videos. We edited them, and at the end of it, we all went to GRTV and got a tour of the station, and then our projects were put on the air.
Yeah.
And that was my first public access experience. And we were in the edit suite. There was a live shoot going on in the studio, and I felt that energy. The only downside was I couldn't get there easily, and I couldn't see the station in my home because I lived in Kentwood. So I think I called you up, and I called the 243-2432, and hi, this is Tom Norton. And I was like, hey Tom, I'd like to get a tour of the facility. I remember I came down with my mom, 12-year-old kid, and got a tour of the facility, and that was it for me. I was just obsessed with it because there was this place in the community that when I saw the energy and I felt the energy, it was just like, okay, this is what I need to tap into. This is my future. This is the direction I'm going. And this is kind of a long-winded answer for you, but if I was running a station like this, I would want to find people like me and find people in the community that don't know that this channel exists or don't know that public access exists. Go to the schools, go to institutions, and you don't have to necessarily talk about public access, but talk about making media and making film in your community. That's a powerful message, and it's something that is attractive to people, at least a certain amount of people.
Right. The big change that you've seen in your industry, I mean, how do you stay on and evolve? How do you stay on the cusp of always on the leading edge? I know we see each other at NAB, things of that nature, but I mean, you do all of that, but what else do you do to stay on the cusp, to keep your 50 employees with paychecks?
Yeah, so we call the company Evolve for a reason, and in our industry, the technology is evolving, and it seems like over time it's happening faster and faster and faster. So we built a business model, and I'll get to it very, very quickly to kind of explain it, but our whole mentality is we want to bring in equipment, we want to rent it, and then we want to have an avenue to sell it. That's very important for us because there's a ticking clock when the stuff comes in. So you buy equipment for a station like this, you can say, okay, we're going to buy a remote truck, and we're going to have that for 10 years, and that's our remote truck. Our customers ultimately rent the gear that we have, and they expect the latest cutting-edge technology. So the only way to truly do this correctly is to put everything back into it. So my passion is also my business. So all the profit goes right back into the company. And that's the way that we grow, and that's the only way to do it correctly. I mean, we have pieces of equipment that cost 6 figures. We have projectors that cost $40,000, $50,000, and we have 200 of them. And those things, as soon as they come in, there's that ticking clock. Okay, this thing is, the things that I'm investing on depreciate. They don't appreciate.
Right.
So they need to make their rental revenue back quickly, and then they need to have an exit door out. The problem is recently video is changing so quickly. You know, it's like, okay, we're going from HD, now we're talking about 4K. All right, we're into 4K, now we're talking about 8K. And those are get rid of the old stuff, bring in the new stuff. And the only way that we do this is I have a team of what I call solutionists, which are they're over perspective departments. So we have someone that's just over projection, someone that's just over LED, someone that's just over cameras. And we all travel the world and go to trade shows and go to factories and look at new technology that's coming out and basically try to hedge our bets and say, okay, this is going to die next year, so we need to get out of it and we need to move into something else. And it's just like having a casino. You just hope the house wins. Sometimes you lose, but you just hope the house wins.
Yeah, it's almost like being on the George Jetson treadmill. It's never going to stop.
And you know what the thing is? It's that same feeling that when I was here, like I had one of my guys call me and he's like, we have a client that needs 2 of these. Those 2 of these were $150,000. So it's like, okay, let's order them, let's get them in, let's get them to the customer, because that's what we do is we react very quickly. But it gives you this adrenaline hit that feels like live television, and I kind of run on that a little bit. So I'm a little crazy in that aspect, and you know, my accounting department sometimes shrugs, you know, when the invoices come in, but it's just what we have to do to stay competitive and to take care of our customers.
Right. What do you based on what you have experienced through us and through Evolve, and what do you think is the future for not just for community media? I mean, because you recognize that it is this gem within every community. What do you think is the future for community media? We hear the gloom and the doom, but what is, I should say, maybe instead of the future, what is the potential?
Well, it's adapt or die. You know, I think if things are done the old way, that there is a chance that this could go away. So it has to be protected, because we're all fighting against easy, cheap ways to get content out there. I can get content on YouTube and put it in front of billions of people. What community television stations do is they hone in on the community and they tell the story in depth, you know, and you can do a deep dive in everything. And that's really what's worth protecting, is if we're not telling the stories of the community and we're not teaching people about media, then what is a community? I mean, any place that I've gotten in my life is because my family moved to Kentwood and I had access to this place. So if it went away, it's like, well, okay, maybe people wouldn't notice it, but there's a lot of people that would come through here that aren't getting the training, aren't learning a new craft. This is a tool that you can use during your life. So I think it needs to be seen as a tool of the community. It needs to be protected. And the thing I always say is the pendulum always swings both ways. So content still needs to be produced, but the way you get content out has to change.
Right.
And I think you guys are doing that. I mean, we're on Facebook right now, right? We're not on the channel. We're on Facebook. There's ways to get the message out, and this is to a global audience.
With regard to what would you say to as a manager, as someone who runs a corporation, what would you say to the person that how do you break out? You're being pulled in this direction, you're being pulled in that direction, you're being pulled in that direction. Because this is a great opportunity for you to share your management secrets.
Right.
How do you break out what is the most important, and being able to focus and discern what are the top 3 goals that this station needs to hit for the next 1 or 2 years? How would you handle that at Evolve?
How would I do it at Evolve?
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I've done right is I've hired really smart people, and I don't micromanage them. I let them run the company. I offer guidance, and I've tried to put myself in a position where if I want to come up here and spend 2 hours in the morning walking around Wealthy Street, and just ideas come to me, or I like to go snowboarding, and I go there, and I realized recently that that's my job as a CEO, is I can't focus as much on the minutia. I need to be involved in that and know what's going on, but I need to be looking at the big picture. Same thing with you. Like, you don't want to be in the grind every day making the programming. You need to be looking at, okay, what just got signed into law that might affect my station, and how do I start lobbying that, and how do I get out in front of that? So as leaders, if we're not able to look forward, we're only looking down at our shoes, and sometimes you can get caught off guard.
Right.
And I'm sure that's never happened to you.
No, not at all. I was just saying, you may snowboard while thinking of that. I'm washing the bottles while thinking of that. I think the remarkable thing that one thing that a takeaway is that they're not all that dissimilar, the experiences. The CEO of a very large corporation, and for some of us here, the executive directors and general managers of community media facilities. And management challenges are, to some regard, management challenges. Speak to that.
And our industries are so similar. I mean,
Yes.
that's the most important thing. I mean, this is a nonprofit organization. We're for profit, but it feels very much the same. So, for example, when I came in here, I made the most rookie mistake. You asked me last night about, give me a horror story. And it's like, okay, horror stories this morning. So I show up with my laptop, and I don't have my dongle. I don't have my connector, right? And your guys are like, no problem. We've got all that stuff. We're going through all these connectors. Nothing's working, but we're trying. And this is how it goes every time. It was like that here. It's been like that in my career. It's that way today. It always feels like it's not going to happen. We grabbed a Mac that didn't have Keynote. We grabbed another computer that didn't have PowerPoint. So we had to install PowerPoint in there and then get this on the screen. But what I was thinking during the whole thing is, this is the exact same, like what your guys are doing, they could easily transition into other industries. It's the same troubleshooting. It's the same thing. It's in a smaller show, you might be struggling to get the presentation up on screen because the presenter wasn't prepared. You're the one that has to be prepared. Right? I know better. This is what I do for a living.
Exactly.
But it's just amazing to me how, with slight calibration, how close the industries are together. And the challenge that we have on my side of the fence right now is this is a pretty good paying career that you can work freelance, you can work full-time for a company, and we're dying for people to come into it, and there's not enough people to come into this industry. There's a lack of training, so most people fall into it by accident like I do, and everything's learn as you go. And this is globally, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so it's something that really, I'm working, now that I've gotten a little bit older, that's what I want to champion is, let's get people educated. And it starts at a place like this. I could come in and do a presentation and say, look guys, broadcast is great, that's a great career, but here's another career as well, and there's pros and cons to it, but I think it's a pretty amazing thing. You can work all over the world if you want to. It's got a lot of flexibility, and it's always challenging. And if you like this, you can do that, and vice versa.
Sure. What about, because a lot of the people here are gearheads. And
Me
you're,
too.
And
Yeah,
you're a
too much
gearhead.
so.
So what about where do you see the trend? I mean, who would have thought when you walked in the door at 12 years old, and when you began volunteering at WKTV 13, 14 years old, who would have thought that something as small as a phone would be shooting double the resolution of what a 150 at the time $150,000 studio camera.
You couldn't see it coming.
You couldn't see it coming. I mean, how does one maintain the purity of craft amidst this menagerie of toys and distractions and keeping focused?
Well, you know what, you've been to NAB a bunch of times, right? I mean, there's thousands of booths that are there, but there's only a certain amount of ones that have products that you really need, those really visceral products. And I think it's, you know, one thing we were talking about last night is it's happened in music too, okay? So nowadays, you and I could record an album on my phone, and it probably wouldn't sound good, but it would be high fidelity, right? We can plug a microphone into that one, and we have an instant recording studio. The Beatles have not come out of that. The Rolling Stones have not come out of that. That's all come out of the do-it-yourself, 4 tracks, dump that to another recorder. Okay, now we have 7 tracks. All the best content musically came out of that era, and it's the same with television as well. Yes, it's evolving, but someone has to produce the content. Now there's just a lot of different ways for that content to get out. So I mean, I don't really watch my television anymore. I'll use my laptop, I'll use my phone, but I'm still watching content that was shot on Panavision cameras and Aeroflex cameras and edited in, you know, very large high-end edit bays. I mean, those things still exist. And now it's like only the best content wins. So there's more static, but the really good stuff still has the ability to get out there. So I don't look at it as a negative. I just think it's one of those things that forces all to kind of change and adapt and kind of roll into that next world. The content part of this is never going to go away. How you get there might change, but the content, I mean, the way that we're shooting this right now is the same way that we would have shot this 25 years ago. It's just the cameras are smaller, the lights aren't as hot, and the equipment, you know, the equipment is cheaper. But we're still doing what we did 20 years ago. There's no difference. We're humans. We still want to talk and we still want to have a dialogue. And until that goes away, we have nothing to worry about.
That's an interesting thought, because I mean, it's one like as we were talking over dinner last night, one thinks that the communal nature of communication is going away, and it seems you know, the dichotomy of that is that it's never going to go away.
Well, we've only been in this world for 10 years. So the iPhone is 10 years old. I'm not blaming everything on the smartphone, but I can blame a lot of it. And like I said earlier, the pendulum always swings both ways, and people want human interaction. We didn't get an instruction manual with these phones. We didn't get an instruction manual with social media. The next generation might go the complete opposite way. I mean, isn't that how it works? Okay, my mom's on Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook. I want to talk to my friends. We just have to wait it out. Everything will come full circle. And we're not out of the job, right? We're all employed. Our industries are growing. So I just think it's something that there's a change, there's a little bit of disruption, but disruption ultimately breaks up the status quo, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think a good time is, I'd like to kind of think about opening it up to the audience a little bit. Does anybody have any questions for Tyler? Have you been wowed by his...
Did I tell you everything? You know?
All the answers you've ever wanted to know.
It's always the first person's the hardest one.
Yeah, exactly. This gentleman here.
Your comment about we still do the same thing we were doing 20 years ago, are we literally sitting in the belly of a dinosaur right now?
No, because this is happening at news stations. This is happening all over the world. It's just, you know, you can't put a studio in your house. Yeah, we could do a podcast if we want and string up some cameras, but you still need to go to a studio to do something like this. So I think that I don't see that need going away. How do you replace a studio? What is interesting, though, in my industry and in film and television is the studio's changing. So what's happening now is a lot of the movies that you see, when you see like a live scene behind them, it's LED. There was a great booth at NAB, and we actually represent one of these products that make this happen, but you and I could be sitting in front of an LED wall, and there could be a virtual set, and it looks real.
Yeah.
There was a motorcycle commercial shot in front of a mountainscape on an LED wall, and you can't tell the difference. So what that's doing is, okay, you're saving money, you're not doing all the on-location stuff, but you can now bring that into the studio and create any environment that you want. You could do it right here.
So you still need a space.
You still need a space, but now you don't have to say, all right, let's bring in some sets to come in and we're doing a news show. Okay, now we're doing a sports show. You could literally just build the content and say, all right, these guys are coming in at 5. let's load that on the LED wall, and to the audience, it looks like a hard set. It looks
Right.
exactly, and it's amazing when you see it.
Oh,
But those are the things those innovations that are coming out that will keep driving things forward and make content more interesting.
very good question. Yeah. Let's go to this gentleman next to you, and then we'll come back to you.
Yes, it was mentioned about being the freestyle. How exactly, if you could expand on that a little more, especially in terms of live events being a freestyle, does that mean
Oh, you mean freelance? Freelance? So typically, when you work in the live events field, and that could be corporate, that could be touring, it could be anything. Most of the technicians that you see making those shows happen are freelancers. So they're not on staff at the companies that they're working for, but they're called to action. Hey, we have a show this week in Las Vegas from Monday to Sunday. They fly you in, you do the job, and you just work just like a freelance photographer or a freelance journalist. And what that allows you to do is have complete freedom over your career. Don't like the company you just work for? Okay, you can work for someone else. You can pick and choose the gigs that you do, where you want to work, how often you want to be away from your family. You just kind of set financial goals for yourself, and it gives you total flexibility. And I did it for about 10 years, and what it taught me was how to run a business. Because when you're a freelancer, you have to balance your own books. You have to pay taxes. You have write-offs. That's how this company started, is I needed write-offs. So I started buying gear.
Excellent. This gentleman here, you had to follow up with your question?
You also mentioned the millennials are going to look at content in different ways, correct?
Yes, well, they are. You can see it everywhere.
So they're going to just produce their own eventually, right?
Well, it depends. How interesting do you think the content would be? And they'll be. You see these people on YouTube. For every one millennial that has a show that has 20 or 30 million views, there's thousands that are producing things that never get anywhere. It's the strongest survive. And when you have so much content to compete with, you have to figure out ways to stand out. And that's just, right now, that's the median. I mean, if you think about it, YouTube is public access. What public access started as is YouTube.
Sure.
It's global access, to be honest. But it doesn't tell unique stories about communities.
Right.
But you can be your own content creator if you want to.
Let me throw a question at you. Is how would you address that challenge and situation in the paradigm of community media, where it's supposed to be everybody has equal access, but how do you create those opportunities for those voices who have something really cool, valuable to say, to get in and to access your facility?
You have to find, so basically you can't wait around for the phone to ring. So now if I was running a place like this, I would try to be in the community as much as I can. Okay, I'm going to speak to a high school, this week. I'm going to speak to a college next week. I'm going to go to veterans. I always felt like veterans in my industry would be great. You're not, or in this industry, you're not getting shot at, but it's very stressful and it gives you that adrenaline kick. But there's a lot of people that just don't know what's going on here, or just don't know what's going on in my industry. And what I've learned recently is, I personally can't wait for the phone to ring anymore and someone to say, hey, I'd like to have a job, because it doesn't work that way. We don't get stacks of resumes that come in. It's about bringing high schools in here and saying, look, let's do it, kids, let's do a TV show. And one or two of them might say, I want to do this for a living. And then start bringing them in, and then you get that next generation.
Becoming a contact.
And you get free labor too. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
This gentleman here has a question.
In your current position with your current company that you created, has there been a moment that just happened and you think to yourself, this reminds me of the time when I was in community media, like a story that you can kind of correlate thinking back to your past?
Almost on a daily basis. It's a lot of just the troubleshooting and the stress. I had to adapt to the troubleshooting and the stress at 12 years old. Tom and I have known each other for almost 30 years. I remember, you haven't lived until you take a rusty production truck out at 7 in the morning in winter to then go do a hockey shoot.
Yeah.
That isn't living until you've done something like that. And but to answer your question, I see it all the time. I mean, I think about this place all the time. And when I started building the company, the one thing that I wanted to accomplish that was accomplished here is a sense of community. So typically the way a corporation works is there's the customers on one side of the wall, and there's the staff that, this happens on the other side of the wall. And what I really took away from my time here was that the community was always here and it had this sense of energy. And I didn't want to start a company that felt very transactional. So it's like, okay, who is our audience? Our audience are the technicians. just like your audience. You want to find technicians, camera people from the community and bring them in. So we want to give them a reason to come into our facility and spend time with us because they're our biggest advocates because they're the ones that go out in the field. So I've taken little things like that I learned here, that sense of community with me to start, when I started a company, because I want that kind of warmth and I want that kind of energy. But like I said earlier with the laptop fiasco, which is completely my fault, that's the stuff that happens here all the time. That's the stuff that happens in my industry all the time. And it's just, I almost laughed this morning. Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, just this doesn't work that way. It'll never change. Exactly.
Yeah. And if it did work, something's wrong.
If it did work, we're going to lose power.
Right.
That's
if
the
the
only
rehearsal
thing.
goes
Yeah.
well, something's wrong.
It's a great rehearsal, by the way. When are we going live? This
Yeah,
is nice. I'm enjoying
exactly. Why don't we record this now?
this. Yeah, that's the thing. Don't forget to hit record and play at the same time.
Yes,
That was
exactly.
it.
Yes.
Remember that happened a few times on those pneumatic machines.
Oh, Lordy, yes, I remember.
Lesson number one.
That terrible sinking feeling of you're 10 minutes in and you look over and nobody hit record. And I've seen heads nodding here. Everybody's experienced that.
So that's good. That ties into your question. So in my business, there have been millions of dollars lost to companies because at the end of the show, the client said, all right, I'm ready for my records. And the person backstage didn't hit the record button. Because you just get distracted. You get busy and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to hit the button.
Yeah.
That stuff has happened multiple times.
Even at the highest levels.
All levels.
All
The
levels.
shenanigans continue.
Yes,
At all levels of the industry.
the Academy Awards.
This is a well-oiled machine here. I mean, I love this.
The Academy Awards. I mean, the guy, you're standing alongside stage. You have one job. Give out the envelopes. And one job, that's all your job is, give out the envelopes, and you're texting while you're giving out the envelopes, and you gave the wrong envelope to
So
Warren
guess who
Beatty.
won Best Picture? Check this out.
So,
But that's a sinking feeling, isn't it?
oh, I think that's one of the worst feelings in the world is when you suddenly realize that something catastrophic, and it's irreparable.
And you know what the nice thing is you can make those mistakes here. Right? You can. I mean, I know you don't like them, but mistakes happen, and at least you can learn those lessons here versus learn those lessons when you're in the professional setting. Because the one thing that you can't change, that you can't teach, that no school can teach anybody, is how to perform under pressure. Like I can't teach you I can't make a camera stop working. I can't make a record deck stop recording or a light flash. That's all things that happen when you're in the thick of it, and you can't teach that. You can't teach that in a classroom. So to me, this is the best classroom. Because you can make mistakes. It's not, it is, I think the audience gives it a little bit of, okay, these are volunteers, so you're allowed to come in here and really cut your teeth and not be afraid to make mistakes and learn from them.
Precisely. Now they're giving me the cue that we're going a little long, but I want the audience
I'm
here
going
to
to go
see.
so fast through this.
I know. I want the audience. Well, you don't have to go too fast. I want the audience to see just an example of what Evolve Media Group is able and is doing worldwide.
So I'll kind of skip through the minutia part, but this is our headquarters. We're based in Orlando. We have an office in Orlando, Dallas, and Las Vegas, which we alluded to. And our business model is we rent high-end equipment. So we actually don't do the shows that I'm going to show you. And that was one thing I learned here too. I'm not a creative guy. I know how to make it happen. So I love the gear. So the company is gear first, rental of high-end equipment. We're 50% sales and distribution. And then the learning part is also very important, which I'll get into. And then we have solution, service, finance, and distribution. That's what we call our trifecta of services. I'm a big believer in the power of three, the triangle. It's a powerful thing. So we have 3 offices, 3 key business models that we promote. So a little backstory. And, we're volunteering here for a while. I think you guys are all about the volunteer. And I'm all about the volunteer. I'm also all about the technician. We're a technician first above all other type of company.
Sure.
So that's what we focus on. And one of the ideas that I got explicitly from my time here is the Academy, which we launched 5 years ago. So there was a lack of education in our industry, and also we wanted to create that sense of community. How do we bring technicians in to spend a few days with us? There's a lack of learning, so let's see if that takes off. So we launched our Academy 5 years ago. We train hundreds of technicians a year. It's all manufacturer certified stuff. We have a staff that's dedicated to this, but the idea from that came from here. And when we started doing this, all of a sudden we had a lot more people in and out of the door. And I was like, this feels like the old days, and it's a lot of fun. You get to give people tours and show them around. So some of the classes that we do projection. So we use really big projection so the audience, the TV in live events is basically a screen or an LED wall. It takes a projector to make that image, so we use very bright projectors. So we do projection classes. We do camera classes. Here's a couple pictures of some classes that we've done. There's some Academy students of
It's
ours.
like our volunteer banquet.
It's a volunteer banquet. Doesn't this sound familiar?
Yeah, exactly.
This is all. So I hope you didn't copyright any of this stuff. But and then next year we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to launch our live event video technician course, which is going to be a 3-month, 3 times a week after hours. Come in with no experience, and let's get you a career in live events. So we're kind of taking what we learned in the academy and bringing it to the next level.
Impressive.
So very quickly, I want to kind of show you, since many of you probably haven't seen like maybe a large production, I want to kind of take you through it really quickly. And this is kind of how it starts. So our gear lives in road cases. That gear goes on trucks, and then that goes to the venue anywhere in the country, right? And then from there, it goes into a box like this. This is a hotel ballroom. I look at this as a studio, but I look at it more as this is a remote shoot, because you're taking a truck full of boxes. You're going to turn, this is like a sandcastle. We're going to build a sandcastle here for a couple days. We're going to do an event, and then we're going to get out. So we have to take this space and make something entertaining out of it. Our customers have to make something entertaining out of it. But we start with a box, and then a few days later, we end up with something like this. So this is an example of a project where we have projection, we have LED, we have projectors shooting up on the ceiling, and this is kind of the beginning of those immersive environments. You can't bring people in for a traditional show. You need to surround them with the content. This is a close-up of that. Here's another project. Again, same thing. And what's interesting is you're basically just replacing the television with LED or projection. And you're loading in the show, and then in the back, the guys are loading in almost like a portable production truck. So you're loading everything in a back hallway or behind these screens, and you're building what would look like a production truck. And then when it's over, it all goes back in the road cases, and it goes back on the truck. We use projectors to get our points across in our industry, and we also use LED. This is a huge LED wall in Orlando. And again, this goes back to immersive, immersive, immersive. Everybody wants immersive, and that's better for our industry. This is kind of an example of what a backstage would look like. So we have this gentleman here, Willie. He's feeding all the screens that you saw in that shot. Everything comes into him, and then that all goes out. And then from there, you have a graphics workstation. You have a media server operator, which the media servers generate all the content. You get the Mac trash cans. You've got playback operator. Way in the back out of focus is the guy directing cameras, and then you've got teleprompting and more graphics. Does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
So the trade is very similar. The stress level is very similar. It just takes a few little tweaks, and you can do this. And that's really the quick little once-over about what we do. So
Excellent.
it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, no, it can't be. Well, Tyler Mayne, I want to thank you for coming up from Orlando to attend the plenary session here. Tyler was gracious enough to donate to WKTV in the spring our second digital cinema editing suite. So we thank you again for that.
Well, I have one more surprise for you.
Oh, yes.
I don't have it with me, but I want to thank, I work with Panasonic, and they are sponsoring a camera for the station. So we got you the new EVA 1, which is a film, you can do film
Oh,
shooting,
my
you can shoot
gosh.
videos with it. So so they work with us.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was back ordered. But
Wow.
you should get that in about 1 or 2 weeks. So
Oh my gosh.
thank
Well,
you to
thank
Panasonic
you
for
so
that.
much.
So
Wow.
Panasonic was gracious to work with us on that.
Yeah,
one.
so
So.
the staff is doing
I wish I could go like this, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it just
yeah,
didn't,
just
didn't
happen to
work
have
out.
something here.
So there it is.
Wow.
A new car.
Yeah, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car.
Yeah, don't look under your seat. You'll be disappointed.
Well, thank you again. Tyler, your generosity has been amazing, and your generosity to us to launch the second. We launched a digital cinema editing program here several years ago, and it has really taken off like wildfire, and it has outstripped our financial means, the demand. And but where did we were talking at NAB a couple of years ago, and I was talking to him about how we were trying to do this, not realizing how big Evolve Media Group had become. It was just Tyler. you know?
I'm still Tyler.
He's still Tyler. And I was just talking to him, and then lo and behold, a very generous check arrived. And in response to
Anytime.
it.
Happy
Yes.
to help you. You guys have meant the world to me, and I owe you a debt of gratitude. I mean, it's the best times of my life were spent here.
Excellent. Well, you're building up that gratitude back. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Tyler,
Thank you.
again. So, with that, on that very happy and pleasant note, we want to thank you again. Thank you all for attending. We have a great 2 more days of conference here at WKTV. I want to encourage everybody. There is the Airstream trailer outside. That is WKTV's oral history program called Voices. At 3 o'clock today, the technician is going to be in there. And so if anybody wants to, up to 4 people can go inside that Airstream trailer and tell their PEG story, your PEG history, whatever it may be. Please let me know or let Davin know, and we will make sure that you're ready to go. And I also wanted to touch base with Gene because WKTV has a podcasting program here. And we have a podcasting schedule over the next 3 days, and we want you to participate in a podcast. We just want to talk about PEG, the trials, the tribulations, the fun times, all the good stuff, all the stuff that produced people like Tyler Mayne here. So we really want to get down, and we want to have, when you participate in this conference at WKTV, we want you to have a fully media immersive experience. And we hope you take advantage of the Voices trailer, the podcasting, and all the other seminars that we have. So once again, thank you everyone. And for all those watching on Facebook, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you at your local community media station. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
An old pro. Nice job.
Old
Nice job.
salt.
Just like